Threw in the power.
He did the clap. We're going. It's going.
Threw in the power.
Welcome to the podcast, pals.
Welcome.
Welcome.
This is Throwing the Power. My name is
Step
Frank.
inside. I'm Marcus.
Hey, what's that? A carnival on the horizon?
Love it or hate it, we debate it.
Step
We're talking
right
about
up here and challenge the strong man.
we're talking about the Princess Bride.
He'll offer you a peanut.
I've just got to bring it up on my computer, so you guys talk and you do the intro.
Here in the middle, the bearded lady.
And a lot of peanut.
All right. So
That was really my best Andre the Giant. It's a very
It's going to be lower.
He sounds like he's got a goldfish right at the back of his throat. And
Like
he's
a-
trying
like
to stop it from going down.
Goldman, written by William Goldman. Hey.
have we even talked about what we were talking about today?
No, Andre
I
the
don't recall
Giant's
that.
career.
I said-
think. We're just sticking with Andre the Giant, his persona.
I did
Today, we are talking about...
I already said it. You guys just weren't
Today,
listening.
we're talking about
Go on, Marcus.
What are we talking about?
the Princess Diaries.
Oh,
No,
No, we're not.
No,
we're
we're
not.
But
No, we're
here's
not.
what happened.
But here's a story
Oh.
for you.
Marcus came over to my house for dinner a couple of weeks ago, and we sat down with his lovely wife and my lovely partner.
Short version, or Bridget.
Your-
Bridget.
Known as my
Bumble hag?
known as my bumble hag.
Yeah, very good.
And she loves it. And I said, "Oh, we watched The Princess Diaries 1 and 2 today." Yeah, and Marcus goes, "Random, okay." And I was like, "Well, I thought I'd watch the second one as well." And you're like, "As well as I don't understand what you're talking about." I'm like, "Well, we're going to do it on the pod," and you were like, "Oh my god!"
Wait, so
No,
you
we're
got
not.
confused.
I read it and just saw Princess and went, I can stop there, and decided that it was going to be Diaries. So Kath and I watched The Princess Diaries 1 and 2. If Marcus and I hadn't talked about it, there's a chance I came in today and you guys are like, all right, Princess Bride. And I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, that would have been funny.
That would
And
have been
I
funny.
wish.
That's
Here's-
like the other day when we were recording and you were like, where are we? I'm at the venue. And I was like, you're at the wrong venue because we had changed it and you hadn't read the chat because
Yes.
Tom doesn't know how to read.
And I went from yelling at you on the phone to 10 minutes later calling you back and being like, I think it's going to be fine. I'm on my way.
I know it's
and
going to
I'm
be fun.
walking-
And also, then you beat Marcus there anyway.
That's
so.
true. That was interesting. That
All
I
right.
Oh, wait. I'm just saying. All
are
right,
we
the
doing here?
princess,
Catching some strays.
the Princess Bride.
Can I say
Princess Bride.
One thing.
Okay.
The
Jesus.
Princess Diaries 2 is Chris Pine's debut. So it's his first film. So we were talking about the Chris's recently, and it's just something to think that is Kath always, when she listened to that episode, she's like, when I think of Chris Pine, I think of the Princess Diaries 2.
I just don't.
Okay, fair.
Yep.
He's very good looking in that movie. It's not very good. Abigail Breslin's in it.
As is tradition.
Yeah,
okay,
nice.
so
She's little.
The Princess
On-
Bride.
on this podcast, we rate films out of 11.
We do.
Thomas,
Yes.
What do you got?
The reason for that
you need to
is-
provide an explanation.
Yes.
'Cause it
I
doesn't
need
make
to.
sense.
I need to provide an explanation. The reason we rate these pods out of 11 is if you encountered Christopher Guest's character in this movie and you went to give him a high five on both hands, you would giving him a high 10 plus 1, which would be 11, yes.
Why do you say I 11? You're ruining everything.
He has 11 fingers.
Yes,
How
because
about that?
a man with 6 fingers
Perfect
killed my
opportunity.
father.
You still fuck it up somehow.
I do.
Do you want to try a high five?
Sure.
That's better.
I don't know about that. That's pretty bad.
All right.
It looks like
That's
we
about
were,
what I expected from you two. to
we
be
were
honest.
Shout your name.
warning each other off.
Shush. Shout your name if you like this film.
Tom.
I haven't rated it.
Frank!
Feels like you might be like right in the middle.
I think I'm a dislike.
Ooh.
I'm
Numbers. Start with Marcus. Go numbers.
I'm gonna give it a 5.4.
Oh, he doesn't really, he's not mad about it.
He's
Okay.
like,
Yeah, Thomas.
9.3.
What?
What's very high?
What?
Whoa!
Jesus Christ.
What do you
Whoa.
mean 9.3?
Who are all these guitarists in this
La, la,
room?
la, la.
9 point. Okay, Frank.
I'll go, 6.9. Hey-oh.
I thought you were going to lead with 9. You're about to
was
crack
confused.
him
Yeah,
for
I-
a 9 point something.
I got confused for a second. I was trying to lean and press buttons and
Nine's-
God, my job is hard
9's
here.
high for this film.
I think this movie is wonderful.
Do you
Really,
think it's all time one of the greatest rom-coms of all time?
I
Or
think that if we're going to get into it very quickly,
Let's go.
the romantic aspect, while the very good sort of like ambient quality of it, because it has so many romantic and fantastical features and like aesthetics, it's not the most compelling part. Like the Wesley and Buttercup stuff is very sweet, but it's pretty shallow.
Why is she called Buttercup?
This movie is so weird.
It's wonderful.
It's really weird, isn't it?
It's joyful.
So it opens with a bedridden boy.
Okay, whoa.
I think you're overselling it.
Yeah, that's a savage
this
take.
child.
A bedridden boy.
Because anyone in the
That's
morning.
the character's name.
We're all bedridden.
It's the grandkid. or
Mr.
the
Savage.
grandchild.
Mr. Savage.
Fred
Mr.
Savage.
Fred Savage. He's bedridden. His legs don't work. Hey, do you ever see his legs work?
No, I guess
We don't
not.
know.
That's a
We
weird
never
assumption.
see him rid
Weird
himself of
assumption.
his bed.
He's stuck to that
He's
bed.
stuck to the bed. You know, we watched that part of that
His
episode.
grandfather comes in and reads him a story.
We watched part of that episode of It's Always Sunny the other day. Fred Savage directed it.
He directed a lot of episodes.
He directs so much. He directs
we-
like a TV
Yeah.
director. But it was just fun to see that. And be like,
Yeah.
oh, Fred
Oh,
Savage.
sure. Yeah.
you know.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Go on.
Connection.
Also, Deadpool do a little homage.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Correct
Good.
response.
So Fred Savage is in bed. His grandfather comes in. He's like, I'm sick, I'm bored. And the grandfather goes, I'm going to read you a story.
Who's the grandfather?
Fred Savage's
Peter Falk, Colombo.
Peter what?
Peter Falk.
Michael Jordan's agent.
One more thing. I'm Colombo. You know it? TV's Colombo?
You know.
From-
Sit down. Take a seat.
From The Offer? The series about the Godfather?
I know that sounded like every
You-
character in The Offer.
Yeah.
You sounded like, what's his name?
Robert Evans?
No. Giovanni Ribisi, who plays.
Oh, really?
What a
He's like,
king.
hey, I'm gonna make this movie. I don't really
It
like
sounds
it.
like he's doing a Colombo
This
impression.
was,
He's
um,
playing Columbo.
Dad's like proper New Yorker. Granddad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I got this thing for you.
Oh, Columbo is in the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you didn't like that. You know, but he played a TV character called Colombo that ran for a very long time, and he was like a TV detective. It was a big thing. That's what he's best known for.
Sounds great.
Sure.
Peter Falk, he's great.
So,
Falk?
Yeah. Falk sounds better than
this is a fork in the road. Can we continue?
Mm.
I don't know. What?
No,
I'm
good,
just
good
trying.
bit.
Stop
Nice
spooning
bit,
me.
nice bit. That was nice.
So
Good
don't
bit.
spoon me. Stop touching me.
Anyway,
Robin
Fred Savage,
Robin Wright.
bedridden
Carrie-
kid, can't
yes.
walk.
Grandfather starts reading a story, and then we go into the fantasy world of the Princess Bride.
Yes, we do.
We meet Robin
Which
Wright.
is
we meet-
very never-ending story.
Sure. Yeah, maybe not quite as sinister. The Never-Ending Story
like the
has a
happy
lot
never-ending.
more like, ooh.
It's not,
feel-
it's not the first and not the last I'm going to.
the only
mention.
comparison I have,
Well, it's never-ending,
is,
so it's going to have to come up
See?
again.
the only comparison I have is Robin Hood Men in Tights. It feels like the same world as Robin Hood Men in Tights, which is also a Carrie Elwes film.
Like 6 years later, right?
Yeah.
93. I think that film's
That's-
a lot like more.
That's the funniest film of all time.
That's a take.
That's
I
a
guess.
take, yeah.
It's so good. It's better than this,
It
for
is
sure.
very good.
Kath loves that
But-
movie. She showed it to me for the first time, and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, but you're dumb,
Of
so
all
it doesn't matter what you
time-
think.
Of all times, be cool.
Well,
That is a Mel Brooks
We'll talk
movie,
about
right?
it. Yeah.
That is like
every time they do a Mel Brooks movie, they burn our village down.
So I chose this film.
Yes, Marcus chose it.
I chose this film because I'd never seen it. And I grew
Huh.
up, you knew that, right? You
No.
didn't know that?
No,
oh,
I
okay,
didn't know
that's
that.
like exactly why I chose
well, he
this film.
accidentally watched The Princess
This is-
Diaries as a kid.
This is one of those films where around the time I'd seen everything around it and somehow this just went under the radar.
What do you mean everything around it? The Never-Ending Story?
Yeah, like
Robin
just
Hood Men in
everything that we
Tights?
grew up with, like the majority of things. But I was, watching The Rescuers Down Under.
Yeah, but
and
this
all-
is 87. This is before us.
Yeah, I still
That's it.
like
Yeah,
never
sorry.
ending
I
story.
guess
I'm just
whatever,
poo-pooing
But
on
you
you.
could
Just
say,
continue.
as an example of another 80s movie that feels like a staple now, Back to the Future, right? Like that
Sure,
feels like if you
sure.
watched that, you watched this.
Yeah.
I've never seen Back to the Future still.
I
so-
knew a lot of people that had seen this, and I somehow I didn't understand how I'd missed it. Anyway, so here we are. I watched it. I do wonder if nostalgia plays heavily on this.
Yeah.
I'm guessing both of you have watched this at a young age.
No, this is my first time.
First time for you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I watched it when I was like maybe 17 or 18. And it was one of those films that
okay.
people said, by the way, put alongside this, I'd say like Edward Scissorhands
Yeah.
also fits into that sort of grouping
Yeah.
maybe. And
Why?
I think it's like a similar 80s sort of like kids grew up watching this film and they have a lot of affection for it. Like it's not the same type of movie,
Yeah,
but it
but
has those fantastic
Princess Bride, I would
elements.
say, has stood the test of time in pop culture. It's always referenced. We do
You don't
homages.
think Edward Scissorhands has at all?
No.
I think that's a weird
Where's
take.
it referenced?
Edward Scissorhands?
Yeah.
I think Tim Burton.
Every time you use your scissors, you go,
I think when
Scissorhands."
people say Tim Burton, they mention that
Nah.
at least out of the top
No,
three.
Frank,
I would disagree. I would disagree.
Respectfully, and I don't like Edward Scissorhands that much. It's
You
not
don't
my
have to be
movie.
respectful here. But go
Okay,
on.
disrespectfully, what the fuck, bro?
Wrong, man. I would say Nightmare Before Christmas. Well, Beetlejuice now.
I
don't know.
I would argue Beetlejuice, Jack Skellington, and Edward Scissorhands would be a trifecta of some of the most iconic characters of the last 30 years. Like you would 35 years, I suppose.
Yeah, 35 years maybe, but 30 years, no way. You
Fair.
are way out on
Wasn't
a
made
limb
30
there.
years ago.
We digress.
We digress. I watched this movie for the first time when I was 17. Everyone or a lot of friends I had loved it. And, and my mum knew it. And I watched it just kind of like, oh, this will be okay. And it charmed the shit out of me.
So I was on the phone
Even
to
at
Mum.
17.
At 17,
Really?
it charmed me a
Really?
lot.
Okay.
I thought it was
Interesting. I was on the phone to Mum the other day and I said, we're doing Princess Bride. And she goes, oh, good. Yeah. And I said, yeah, it'd be good for a first time watch. And she goes, sorry? What do you mean?
Mm.
I went, I've never seen it. She goes, how did I fail you as a mother?
Oh.
And I went, good question.
We don't have time.
Yeah,
We
and
don't
then we
have
got
time.
off the topic of the film.
Arnie Allison is just a lovely lady.
No, she is. I didn't mean that. Love you, Mum.
The Mayor of Devonport, well done.
Just a bit.
Second term, I don't know.
But
You know-
she's right. Like it is a film that her and I would have watched together and would have I would have been into, I guess, at the time that I was watching films of that sort of caliber.
Yeah.
I love the Never Ending Story, and that's why I said I'd bring this up. But I guess that was my expectation going in, thinking of the time, thinking of that early sort of era of late 80s, early 90s of puppetry use
Yeah.
in film. I guess I expected more. You
The
only get
fantasy world.
the fantasy world, the dark fantasy as well. Like
Yep.
80s was known for its dark fantasy.
Yep.
This is a lot lighter.
This was and so fucking slow.
Oh.
The pace, was-
Really?
I was enjoying moments. There was really a lot of moments in this film that I did enjoy.
Yeah.
The pace was not one of them. It was a drag.
Did not notice that at all.
Really?
I found the first half an hour, I was like, what? Because in my mind, it was literally a beautiful romance story.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was
It takes a sharp turn. Hey,
it's a very silly, funny comedy,
Yeah.
fantasy adventure.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like they start off with As You Wish and they're falling in love and all that stuff. And then you get to the scene where they're about to have the first sword fight and he's climbing the rope. And he's like, what does he say? Oh, I don't even
I don't suppose
remember.
you could hurry it up a bit. You know, like when he's talking to him when he's on the side.
Yeah, I forget what it is.
Look,
Like,
if you don't mind, this is a lot harder than
Than
it looks. You
yeah.
know, that entire.
give me a hand. Well, if you promise not to.
I swear on my father.
Can I say,
Yeah.
because your recollection of that scene
Mhm.
very much is how I sort of perceived it as well, but the dialogue itself was so softly spoken throughout the entire film.
Hmm.
It almost sounded like really bad ADR at times.
Uh,
Like, it was
probably
like-
is.
There was something about this film. And again, I understand that with a lens of being like, this is from an early time. You know, you got to watch it from the period. The sound was so quiet. Like there was nothing going on around the dialogue.
Little tip.
Yep.
Just the volume. Just turn the volume up.
No.
Oh, this is your
No.
tip for them.
I
Yeah,
found
my note for
even-
Marcus.
I'll give you a clear example of what I mean. When I can't remember his name.
Inigo Montoya,
No. So the guy in the black mask.
the Dread
Carrie
Pirate
Owens.
Roberts.
Man in Black.
Oh, the Dread
Wesley,
Pirates.
The Dread Pirate
Wesley.
Roberts, Yeah.
Yep. So
Wesley.
when he's fighting the giant the first time,
Oh, yeah.
when they're talking to each other, it's like they're whispering to each other in a library or something. Like it's really odd.
I can only
Carrie
imagine.
Carrie Owens as Wesley kind of does that. Paloma, watch out for me.
But not even with the wispy sort of stuff. It's like, yes, so here I am.
I believe you.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I believe you.
So what should we do now?
It
Yeah.
would
He's
have
very-
it would have all been ADR though, because filming outside, that looked like it was actually outside.
Obviously, when they're falling down the hill.
And Andre the Giant. Oh,
Yeah.
as you wish. Very funny. Andre the Giant probably was ADR as well. I mean, he's not an actor. So he's like doing
Yeah.
this on set, and probably afterwards they had to be like, you got to speak up, you got to project here, man.
Mm.
I think what Wesley's doing, what Carrie Elwes is doing, is he's doing Errol Flynn, right? He's
Yes.
he's
Yes, yes,
playing
yes,
on
yes.
these swashbuckling, dashing, like Douglas Sirk characters from like the 30s or 40s. And it's a bit of a twist on it because obviously there's some weirder shit going on in the movie, and some of the dialogue has a little bit of a modern 80s-ish snappy rhythm to it. But that's what he's doing. He's doing the like, well, what should we do now? You know, not prepare to be disappointed. What does he say? Inigo Montoya says to him, like,
Prepare to die.
who are you?
No.
Oh, you're talking about Wesley. Sorry.
I cannot tell you. I must know. Except being disappointed or something like that, you know? And it just the way in which he get used to being disappointed. But I do really like the rhythms of the dialogue. I really love their exchanges in this film.
I didn't, and then I found I was settling into it because obviously in the reality it's the novel, it's the book that the grandfather's reading, and the language might be, you know, heightened
bit
for that
affected,
reason.
yes.
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
me, it's
But
lacking in energy. It's not punchy.
Well, we've got to admit, when we've got Andre the Giant, Mandy Patinkin, Carrie Elwes, and Robin Wright, and then next to them we've got Inconceivable. It's just kind of like, well, yeah, everything that guy does is extra, and everything's going to seem. He's a hard voice. How do you
Wallace
do
Shawn?
How do you do Wallace Shawn?
Yeah, I know.
Inconceivable.
That's not bad.
It's a bit like a.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's like a choking.
that was actually quite.
Those are the shrieking eels.
Anyways, goes really high. No,
Yes.
I've lost it. But he's the
He's like-
dinosaur from Toy Story, right?
He's-
That's who most
he's
people know him
that,
as.
but he's also from The Incredibles. He's Mr. Incredible's boss.
Oh, he's
Take
too.
one more step and you're fired.
You know, he's
Yeah.
great in that.
You're not quite getting it, but that's
No, it's a
fine.
really hard
people
voice.
understand.
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks, buddy.
It's hard. It's hard to
very
explain
funny.
what I'm trying to explain. I
I,
guess.
I do know what you mean because I mean it's from
Whether
'87,
it's a sound
so it's,
design issue.
yeah, it feels like there's not enough atmosphere or there's not enough like
Yes.
yeah, the dialogue's
And
been
so-
placed below the mix
That's
kind of
it.
thing.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I understand.
So to me, it feels like it's one pop song away from being the best pantomime I've ever seen on screen.
It is very
Yep.
pantomimic.
Well, it is pantomime,
That's my take on this whole
and
thing.
it's so childish in its into the fantasy world, and the danger is quite. It's played for laughs almost.
There's
When
no
they're-
real death in this movie.
the
right? There's
Wallace
nothing-
Shawn death is the most
That's it.
outrageous.
There's a pretty horrific death in this film.
Or Wallace Shawn getting poisoned.
No, it's when
Oh, he comes back to
Wesley
life, though.
stabs that puppet creature in the fire swamp or whatever.
Oh yeah, the giant rodent
Yeah,
in the forest.
It's horrific.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Just over and
This
over
thing
again.
is dying in real time. I feel like it's a real creature.
Well, there's a human in that.
Yeah.
There's like
That is the guy who played R2D2
That's-
taken and put in
That's
that.
some
Oh.
poor day players just getting prodded.
Some child just dressed
it's
up.
okay. There's a pillow there, so it won't hurt too much.
That
That's
is
pretty
brutal. That's
funny.
the most brutal part. But everyone else, he dies and then comes back to life. Like there is no. Oh no, sorry. What's his name? The six-fingered man gets killed by Inigo Montoya in one of the greatest sequences in the history of cinema. So
Yeah,
there's
when
that
you-
as well.
Inigo Montoya
thinking
is,
Montoya's
is
gonna
so
die.
good.
This is the problem.
Yeah.
I really love this movie. Nothing is as good as Inigo Montoya.
No.
Every
Mandy
time he's not on
Patinkin.
screen, you're like, where is Inigo Montoya? Like, and if he was in it too much, it would spoil it. But it is that stretch after Carrie Elwes gets kidnapped, or not kidnapped, but taken away and tortured, up to when they get back to Inigo. I'm like, yeah, this is not the best part of the movie. I like it, but it's lacking, you know, and the color's a little gone from it.
And I may have said this to you before.
Yeah.
And I stand by it. I think that Carey is the best of the worst actors on the planet. I think he's so bad he's good.
I think that's true, but I think he's genuinely good in this. And I agree with you most of the time
He's
when I
used very well.
yes, when I see
When
him
is he
in
bad?
I
Name something
think-
he's bad in.
I
No,
think he's
I
so
think you
over the
misunderstand what I
top.
mean, though.
He doesn't mean
Yeah.
a bad actor, but it's just kind of
what
like
is he? What does Marcus mean?
I'm so sorry.
Jesus.
On paper, his performances are so shooting.
No, he doesn't mean that. What he means is let me explain. I just want to
Jumping in and going, you're wrong, Marcus. You don't know what you're talking about. And shut up, Tom, for backing him up. It's okay, man. Now go
Yeah,
on, Marcus.
he's-
I'm letting Marcus finish.
He's so over the top, as Tom said. He is what I perceive as an overactor, and somehow gets away with it. It lands every time he does it. Even in Saw, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot.
It's a lot in that, and somehow you get to the end, you're like, I
I
accept
still believe
Like,
it.
I
I'm
still
still in
believe
it.
it. Yeah.
Yep.
I feel him acting and feel him
Yes.
sort of licking his lips
Yes.
every time he does it. This is one of the only performances of his where I'm like, well, he's playing the dashing, swashbuckling guy, you know, the stable hand, and he just looks great. You know who he looks like in this movie, and it took me fucking like 40 minutes to work out who it was. He looks like Austin Butler. Like when he's got those scenes where he's walking through the fire swamp. Oh my god, they have the same bone structure. It's
Yeah.
insane how similar they look.
Yeah.
It's kind of uncanny. But he's so good in this. Robin Wright's very good, though she doesn't get a lot to do.
She doesn't get, like this was one of her really early roles.
It was her
right?
debut
'Cause
film, I think.
she's modeling.
And maybe it was in a
historically.
TV show or something. But yes, this was her debut film. Apparently,
She's great in this.
she's very good.
Yeah.
Apparently, she showed up at the house where they were like having casting calls. William Goldman was there. Rob Reiner was there. And they opened the door and she was there in a little white dress and the sun was behind her and they said it made a halo of her hair. And she looked up at them and William Goldman was like, well, that's what I wrote. So they were just like, all right, it's her. Like straight away. They just,
Yeah.
Uma Thurman.
And also
Whoopi
such a-
Goldberg we looked at it as well, but no. they
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg would have been an interesting choice for this.
As
real,
Buttercup.
Real different movie, I think.
Should have been funny. Which is
Yeah.
good. I
No eyebrows. Yeah.
They didn't give much to do, and also like this is such a strange thing to notice, but she's so natural in it. Like in terms of makeup.
Yeah.
It's just her in a dress, no makeup.
Stunning.
And very natural performance. Very, very good. I like that. But obviously, it's kind of Mandy Patinkin's movie, right? Like every single thing.
Wait, what?
Excuse me.
Sorry.
No,
What?
I missed that.
I said it's
think
Mandy Patinkin's film as Inigo Montoya, and Frank vigorously shook his head.
Yeah.
Like some sort
That's
of
interesting.
some child.
You know whose movie it is?
Seeing.
It's Fred Savage's. You know that. No, I think Cary Elwes is the guy I follow.
He's very good. He's very good.
I think Mandy Patinkin is fantastic, but he's the supporting player, which is always the more interesting role, interesting character, interesting performance.
I'm not
He
trying to
does
be
really
rude,
well.
but it sounds like we're saying the same thing. Which is Cary Elwes is literally our hero, the guy we follow.
So
but
you-
every time Inigo's on screen, you're like, well, yeah, but that's the guy who pops more.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're equally
If
possible.
someone gave me a solo film of either, I'd be watching Inigo. For
I
sure.
would be watching Inigo Montoya all day
Although
long. every day.
Wesley's journey to get back to Buttercup when he's doing first the sword fight and the gymnastics on the mat is
Yes.
great, and then the game of wits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the three
Cassini,
challenges,
that's his
the
name.
challenges 3 as he goes through all the people.
I've already worked it out. And then like explains, and he's like, you're stalling.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. And then like talks about, but you must have known that I knew that that was from Australia. And you're like, what is he talking about?
Where
Like,
he is
With
just
references to Australia in it, hey.
brilliant. Like
Yeah.
he just goes on this tear. It's
Yeah.
very, very funny.
and the whole time Wesley knows that whatever happens
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And his grand plan is I'll swap the drinks. And it's like, that doesn't achieve much, man. Like,
yeah, it's still 50-50, man.
Although I think he thinks that if he goes to drink and Wesley doesn't react, then it must be that his goblet wasn't poisoned. And so then he thinks by swapping them, he has actually tricked him. But it's, anyway, very funny stuff.
I think
Yeah, it's good stuff. So
for
I think
me-
Wesley is
Oh, sorry.
just
He's so good.
he's so good. Yeah, and if it was more of that, I'd watch a solo film.
See,
that's
he
awesome.
I didn't really jump on the Wesley train until the scene toward the end of the film, unfortunately, where he's still lifeless. So his head's the only thing that can move. And the guys all put their hands in to say, here we go. And he kind of corpse-like throws his arm in.
Yeah.
Very funny.
See,
That was that sort of clowning aspect to it that I wanted from him more, whereas before it was a bit cringe for me.
Yeah.
It's a bit too...
Too earnest.
well,
a little
Ernest,
bit,
Ernest
yeah.
and a stage actor on screen.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
there's
yes,
an
yes.
importance of being earnest in a film like this.
No. So I know Cary Elwes from Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's like a film I grew up watching, and,
And
he's
he's perfect in that. I've
so funny in that. Yeah, absolutely.
I got to watch it again.
Whereas this, he's funny in this, but it's, I guess he hadn't been discovered as an actual comedy actor per se.
Yeah,
So he does a lot of funny stuff, and you go,
It's a bit
Really?
misguided for me at times because it's like, is he trying to be the comedy here, or is he meant
Yeah.
to be the straight man? And I could never work it out.
I think he's roguish and he's like quick-witted, but I don't think he says anything that makes you like barely laugh. You go like, ha ha, how droll.
no,
Like,
and,
you know,
and he
that's-
does, and then the physical humor in the last bit is funny, but that's as we're sort of getting into it.
Yeah.
I think the role is better for him in Robin Hood. I don't because he's winking at the audience, he's having a lot of fun, and he's leading a troop of merry men in just a very silly way, and gets to tell jokes and gets to be a leading man in a comedy. Whereas this isn't a comedy, so he can't
No.
be the funny lead.
Yeah.
comic
So it's
fans.
a weird line to draw
Yeah.
because he has to be strong, he has to be earnest,
Yeah.
but yet
I might bottle
hilarious.
this down to another pacing issue. Maybe that was like, there's something that didn't land for me the entire trip. Like I really wanted
Yeah.
to get on board.
Mm.
And I just wasn't quite there. I enjoyed the end of the film a lot more. I think where I did a literal spit take. I was drinking at work while I was watching this, and then not alcohol.
Lot going on there.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was taking
Let's
a
get
drink of
fucked
my
up
coffee.
at work.
And it's when they're at the top of the hill. It's right before that he falls down the hill. She pushes him.
Yeah.
And up until this point, he's kept up the whole facade of who he is and what he does. And then she pushes him down the hill to escape him, I guess is her plan.
Mm.
And as he starts to roll down the hill, he yells out, "As you wish." And I'm like, now I don't know what's going on.
As in why he would say that?
Yes.
Well,
Well,
that's
Because obviously
No, I
he
think
knows that she knows, right? Like it's a tell. It's the biggest tell he could have given her as to
Yeah.
who he is. So why is he hiding his identity
why is he being so cruel?
Well,
to her?
I
up
thought-
until this point?
yeah, it's a weird scene.
I thought the
agree.
scene was like leading towards it in like a.
What's his end game?
I
He's the
think-
man in black. He takes her away. Where's he taking her?
I
When's
think
gonna tell her?
he wanted to reveal, but then she's like getting annoyed at him.
I think he's trying to suss out. This is my explanation of it, even though I agree. I'm watching that with Kath, and she's like, so that's Wesley. And I'm like, no, it's not. And she's like, yes, it is. And he's being a dick. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like
Yeah.
trying to
Maybe
pretend.
not.
But
Yeah.
clearly it is. So then it's like, well, I guess he's trying to suss out why she's marrying Prince Humperdinck. Like that's why he's like, didn't take you long to turn tail and choose the prince over the stable. But at the same time, it's like, this is not the way to do it, man. Like maybe be a
No.
little bit nicer. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that once he rolls down the hill, she hears As You Wish. She runs after him. She's like, I love you again. She'd be like, you didn't have to talk to me that way.
Yeah,
like
it's-
maybe that was a little
it's-
rough.
It's far too quick a transition from what they were doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
to where they end up.
Yep.
And it's literally the rolling of the hill.
fair
and that's
criticism. Yeah. But rolling down the hill really discombobulates you, so maybe concussion.
Inconceivable. Oh, it's getting worse.
You're starting to sound like a character from Big Mouth.
Yes.
Nick Kroll.
Oh,
You're doing a whole lot.
Not to brag, but.
Man.
Okay, well,
Oh.
it feels like we've. Oh, you go. You go.
Oh no, I was just going to talk about two guest appearances that happened later on.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Oh,
wait.
my
Wait.
God.
Well, can we do MVP?
Well, wait.
What-
Are we
what-
doing MVP now? Wait, let's do it. Go on.
I
go
want
on.
to do it
quick.
because I want to announce mine. My MVP is Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
He has the funniest line in the movie to me. Where's-
It took me too long to know that was Billy Crystal until halfway. I didn't look at the cast.
Yeah.
And it was halfway through that big scene he has, the 3/4 mark of the film. And I went, fuck, that sounds like Michael. Oh my God.
It's Mike Wazowski.
See, what blew Kat's mind, she was like, oh, Billy Crystal. And then his wife, and I was like, that's Carol Kane. She's from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. And Kat was
Yeah.
like, what? Like,
Yeah.
That's her from Kimmy. She's so good.
They were
They
both
are so
incredible.
funny together.
When he pushes on his stomach and Wesley goes, true love.
Yeah.
And they're like, did he, you heard him. He said true love. And he said, no. It sounded like true love, but it was really to blave. And the way he says to blave is the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in my
he
life.
takes the Jewish caricature
he's doing
and
a
just
very
runs with
my
it.
gosh.
Yiddish like wizard, right? And him and Carol Kane apparently
Yiddish wizard. I
they're
love
just
that.
in there and they're just improvising a lot of it.
The whole-
Apparently Rob
Oh.
Reiner was like, just go off, do whatever you want.
And it was like no one was allowed on set, or like everyone had to just be like, don't fucking react, just let them play.
How would you deal with it?
Well, apparently,
It's-
Rob Reiner had like cramps or something after the day of filming with Billy Crystal. He was like, I just laughed too much, and I'm in actual pain now.
it's so funny.
I buy
But
that.
to that, I didn't laugh that much at the scene.
I think the whole scene is amusing.
It's
And
very
I love-
enjoyable.
Were you grinning ear to ear though?
No.
I do. I,
Really?
I was
I grin that
grinning.
entire
I was grinning,
scene.
but not. I was like,
Oh.
yeah, good. Then Carol Kane, and then they're waving. Goodbye. And they're not gonna
Think
make
it'll
it.
work? It'll take a miracle, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I
It's-
found it very endearing up until the point that I knew it was Billy Crystal, and then
Yeah.
I could not stop smiling.
Yeah, okay.
That
He's
says a lot about him as an actor for me personally.
He's just, we love him.
It's
We love him.
actually also like it doesn't get enough credit how much these days when characters. I mean, in comedic movies you get a bit more leeway because it's alright if it looks a little silly, but the fucking makeup is incredible.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
really good, and you watch
Yeah.
practical makeup that not in all movies. Some movies have great, but I've seen movies recently where they try to do something similar to this, and it's like, what the fuck is this silly putty that you've put
Yeah.
on them? And they look so good in '87 in this movie. It's
How'd you
just-
get it so wrong?
It's excellent how good they look. That
Yeah.
scene, yes, makes me smile the whole time. Who's my MVP, by the way? Obviously, is Mandy Patinkin as Inigo Montoya. But go on.
yeah, it's a tough one. I wanted to give it to him.
Love him.
Carrie Elwes then.
Yes,
Yep.
Mm.
As you wish.
as you wish.
Honorable mention to Rebel Wilson
Don't.
in
What?
this for wiping the blood off him in the pit of despair.
Oh wow,
She
you're
was
going
great.
with what's his name? As the albino or the albino. He's some sort of an English actor. I can't remember.
He
you
was-
really,
he
you gotta,
was
you gotta
odd.
hate
Mel
boner.
Smith?
Mel Smith.
The albino.
You
Yeah.
got a hate boner for Rebel Wilson.
I do today for some reason.
The
Eight boner.
hate boner. We.
Coin it.
That's a horrible phrase.
It's true.
It's not true. What do you mean?
It's a truly horrible phrase.
Love.
Hate rection.
To
we call them.
blave. It's so funny every time. Okay, I want to talk about scenes we haven't talked about enough.
Sure.
Okay, Inigo Montoya and the Dread Pirate Roberts fighting for the first time.
Yeah.
Great.
That is one of the greatest scenes in movies.
That's where it felt very pantomime-y for me.
Pirates
Ah.
of Penzance,
Yes,
like it
yes,
has
yes,
very
yes, yes.
Gilbert and Sullivan sort
And
of vibe to it.
And then the pole for the like, I don't know how you describe it.
Oh,
but
the
sort of like-
gymnastics pole.
he
yeah, the
swings
gymnastics
around it.
pole, and like you can tell it's obviously
Foam
like
mat.
foam mat
Absolutely.
underneath.
But it feels like
just a fun set.
My favorite
little
bit was
yeah.
sorry, when they're fighting, it's like but now you didn't know. I'm not left-handed.
Yeah.
And he stops, and then they fight for a bit more, and then Wesley
I
goes,
admit it, you're better than me.
but I'm also not left-handed. Ah!
And where are you smiling? And the conversation they have, one of the greatest backstories ever, something this movie does incredibly well, is it breaks the rules of show don't tell. It has so much telling, and it is compelling. When he sits down and he tells the story, he tells the story of what happened to his father, what happened, the six-fingered man killed him, and that he's been on this bloodlust, that's terrible, blood quest, blood oath, whatever. He's revenging. He
needs some blood.
He needs some blood.
A blood drive.
A blood drive. And he tells that story, and of course, there's the classic line, I plan to see him and say, hello, I am Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Maybe one of the top, I don't know, 20 lines.
Everyone yells that at him, and he loves it.
Oh,
he
and
loves
Inconceivable and that are the two lines that everyone says from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, Carrie Elwes does the same thing when they're going through the fire forest, and he tells the story of the Dread Pirate Roberts. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, I don't know how Rob Reiner did this, where he's telling her a story about what happened. But the way he did it is he made it a beautiful setting. Really, you're right, pantomimic. It almost looks like you're watching something, a stage play. It feels a little high schooly, but in a really admirable sense. And he's just telling her this story of how he lived and how he became the Dread Pirate Roberts. Good night, Wesley. Probably kill you tomorrow, And that line he said of, please, please, I need to live, really works for me. That's one of the few moments in the film where I'm like, that lands emotionally. That's just his line that gets him through. That he's, I need to live. I love this girl. I need to live and see her again. Fucking love this movie. I really, really, really adore it. I think it's
we need to. It absolutely is charming. And my experience of it is I got to around that point and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. And I watched the first 30 minutes with Luce, and then I think she had to go somewhere, and she was like, you finished it without me? I was like, yeah, it was great. She was like, oh, the start sucked. He's like, and that's how we both felt. We were both watching it being like, not great, not really grabbing me. Can we talk about Rob Reiner?
Yeah. Rob Reiner has one of the weirdest, should we do a Butler's Pantry? He has a weird fucking career.
The butler in a pantry with a mic.
Rob Reiner version.
The butler's pantry.
That's good. I like that.
He's Jess's dad from New Girl. Weird.
Look
it up.
He's Leo's dad from Wolf of Wall Street.
That's also true. He was doing those
Who
roles.
rings the fucking middle of dinner?
Hello? Right-o, chap, right-o.
Yeah, right.
Cheerio, then.
Cheerio.
God damn it. He's so funny.
He's
in that movie. And
What's
there's
the moment? He's like, who spends $180,000 on lunch?
And then Leo says, the girls, Dad, they're nude and they're hairless from the eyebrows down. The eyebrows down. I never was a fan of the bush. And it cuts to Rob Reiner. He's like, really? I don't mind it. He's so good in that movie.
So he directed Spinal Tap, right? Like that's his
first
early
film.
days. Yeah.
This is Spinal Tap. Then he did a movie after that with John Cusack that I can't remember the name of. The Shore Thing, I think.
Oh, you want me to look it up?
Is that
Shore
I think
Thing?
The Shore Thing, maybe. It's like one of his not particularly remembered movies, but everyone says is fine.
The Shore Thing.
And then he's
then
got Stand By Me.
Yep.
Then he's got like
The Princess Bride.
The Princess Bride.
Then he's got your mate,
Misery.
When Harry Met Sally.
When Harry Met Sally, which is the greatest rom-com of all time.
Yeah.
Then
Misery.
Then Misery. Then North. Right?
No, then A Few Good Men.
Then North, which is apparently one of the worst films. I've never seen it. And then The American President. He's got 7 or so movies in the course of 10 years that are iconic.
Yeah.
And everything he's made since then
And
is
also-
trash.
Sorry. No one goes, man, Rob Reiner, he really crushed it as a director. Like,
No.
They
no one
should.
talks about it.
I think he is talked about in very particular film circles who are like, look, if you're talking about the 80s and the early 90s, it's Rob Reiner. But it's such a specific corridor that it's
Yeah.
like, and it's such a, he's tarnished his career so much in the 30 years since. No one gives a fuck anymore.
I just remember from the South Park stuff that they did on him.
I
It was
remember.
Pretty brutal.
Yes, they're not very nice to Rob Reiner in South Park.
Why? What
They're
do they
just kind of
say?
like Rob Reiner's this guy's like, oh, we need to like ban smoking or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they do.
In fairness, smoking is
Smoking's
really
bad for your
bad.
health.
That's it.
And he's jamming like sticks of butter into his mouth and stuff.
Which is like, making fun of a guy for his weight and then also being like, yeah, smoking's great. They have that song at the factory where people are smoking.
Yeah.
It's a funny song. But there's a little part of you that's like, yeah, guys, smoking's bad for you.
Tom, to reference your BJs, he directed LBJ.
He did with Woody Harrelson. That's true.
Can we never reference Tom's BJs again?
He can't stop referencing his
Are you
BJs.
saying my BJs are L BJs?
Yeah,
I
like-
take the L on them?
What does that mean?
What does
Take
that
the
mean?
L.
No, let's not.
No, it's okay. You guys are
We're in the pantry.
you guys
Unpack
are
it.
too old. So Rob Reiner is...
L.
Take
the
inventory
loss.
in this pantry, man. God damn.
Rob Reiner is known for that, but he's also known for his acting. He
Yes.
acts in Spinal Tap. He's in an episode of 30 Rock as himself, right? He is Jess Day's dad. And then he's married to Jamie Lee Curtis, or he's divorced from Jamie Lee Curtis as Jess Day's mum in
Yeah.
New Girl. And of course, she's married to Christopher Guest, who's the six-fingered man in The Princess Bride.
Wow.
There you
Christopher
go.
Guest is a lord. He's a baron, right? You know, he's one of the guys
You
from.
can't have kids.
You gonna laugh at that, Marcus? You gonna give him
No,
that
I
one?
was-
Is that what's happening?
Like, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best, but it was kind of
Look at
funny.
yourself.
You've got to acknowledge it.
Oh, not bad.
It's some dumb shit you would say.
Yeah, but it would be funny if I said.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, idiot. Get over yourself.
Christopher Guest is a baron. He is the bass player in
Spinal Tap.
In Spinal Tap, and yeah, he's married to Jamie Lee Curtis, which makes her a lady technically, like of the British Empire, but she doesn't accept that title. But all of this to say, Rob Reiner has his people that he's worked with a lot, and he's made some really interesting films. I mean, I don't know. Out of those, you love Stand By Me.
Love Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. Few Good Men. Classic, right?
Yeah.
The American President. Not a movie that everyone talks about, but it's pretty fantastic with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening and Michael J. Fox, right?
Not seen it, so.
Misery. Fucking, like, Misery. Kathy Bates.
Loves
breakout where
company.
she
Absolutely.
Tough watch. Have you seen Misery, Frank?
No.
No.
Props don't.
Oh, when I PP?
He would
Absolutely
miser
PP.
PP his beds.
You say miser PP and you get mad at me for making a joke about Baron? Mate, you're worse than anybody.
Mate.
Mate.
Pal. Sorry.
Have a look at
Throw
yourself.
in the mate.
Chuck in the mate.
Jesus.
Oh, I hate everything about it.
Anyway, Rob Reiner, interesting guy, but he is, he's very much not coming back. He's not suddenly going to make a good movie anytime soon, and yet he kind of ran the table on this.
I don't think he
specific
needs
period.
to. I think
He's got
done his
this.
dash,
He's
right?
got a few good men.
Yeah.
He's got
Bit
Stand
of a
By Me.
legacy.
William Goldman, the writer, has his 4 known credits are Bush Cassidy and Sundance Kid, All the
Right.
President's Men,
Yeah.
Marathon Man, and The Princess Bride.
Wild.
So, like,
wild list. All the President's
good
Men.
ilk.
Yeah.
Good ilk.
All the President's Men is the story of
Good milk.
the two journalists whose names Woodward and Bernstein, who like uncovered the Watergate sort of scandal.
Yeah.
And it's
no,
like
no, sorry, that was Forrest Gump.
My bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're way off. There's some guys with some flashlights.
That's funny.
There you go.
Anyway, and that's a very in-depth, like, political film. And then he writes this. He kind of takes a shot at a fantasy film or a fantasy book because it's based on the book he wrote. And my question then leads us to, what do you guys think of the framing device? Fred Savage, Peter Falk.
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
It's such an excellent choice.
And I love the little turn of, oh, kissing. And then at the end, it's like, no, you can leave that in. It's like, because we get swept up, and so does Fred Savage.
Yes.
I like it.
So what
Nice.
what I think he's doing there that's very clever, because films sometimes can be very meta, and when they do it for no reason, they become empty and just husks, devoid of joy, really pointless exercise.
Sound like anyone?
Just thinking about it, all right? Just thinking about it. But what this film manages to do,
It's droning sound.
what this film manages to do is present something that had become pretty unpopular in the 80s. Like, this fantasy storytelling was looked at kind of with people turning their nose up, especially young boys. They're like, that's lame. That's stuff our parents liked. And it goes, well, let's show that kid at the start. And you can be that kid going, is this what this movie is? And then you forget that's what's happening because you get so caught up in it, like you said, Frank, that you're like, I don't care that this is a young boy being told the story by his grandpa now. I believe in these characters. I'm invested in them in the same way that he is.
So you're calling me a young boy?
Yes.
Mentally.
I just won't
yes.
call you late to dinner.
Yeah.
Good. Can we talk about the home movie version of The Princess Bride they made in COVID?
Yeah, tell me about it.
What?
I didn't watch it.
No, I didn't watch it either, but everyone
Yeah,
basically
everyone's-
came back. They made everyone's in lockdown at home and shot their own scenes at home.
They as in the cast.
They is in the cast and new people and like
Well, Andre the
What?
Giant died in the 90s.
he's not there.
So it would have had to be someone else.
It's
They weekend at Bernie's him, I guess.
Oh, God.
John Cho
So upsetting.
is Inigo Mendoza. Oh, and Javier Bardem. Oh, so it's 2 episodes. Man,
Interesting.
I need
Did
to
he
watch
play
this.
Inigo?
Oh, and then Oscar Nunez is Inigo Mendoza. Man, there's so many people. How are there
Wow.
so many episodes?
So they presumably just like redid it with different casts over and over. I think that's what
Yeah.
they did, right?
Yeah.
But
I
it's-
didn't actually look into this before we started this right now. I'm just
Jeez,
like,
get
I'm
a
learning
job,
this on the
right?
fly.
Yes. This is
Get
why
a
it's
job.
this is why it's such a popular and it's still a long-standing film because
Yeah.
people just love it, right? They really stick with
Oh
it.
my God, Brandon Routh is in it and he plays Princess Buttercup.
Also,
Love Brandon
we
Routh.
haven't talked about marriage.
Oh, Peter Cook.
yes.
That is actually right after To Believe. That is one of the funniest things.
Yeah.
Where it starts on him and he
Out of
looks like
fucking nowhere.
the most sickly man. And the second he opens his mouth, my wedge.
My wedge.
And I
funny.
could be wrong. This might be like a apocryphal thing, but I think no one knew he was going to do that. I think his job was just to be like a sort of silly, effete sounding priest. And
Really?
on the day he just goes, my wedge. And everyone was like, no. Like, just started losing their
Cut.
minds.
Everyone get ready. Start
This is
again.
it. And Peter,
That's so funny.
Carey says a line shortly before that scene. He says, and I wrote it down because I had no idea. He says, "What wouldn't I give for a Holocaust clock?"
yeah, a Holocaust cloak. A Holocaust cloak, which we paused and went, excuse me.
Yeah.
And we looked it up, and it turns out it is a type of cloak that dates back to sort of medieval times that is non-flammable as opposed to inflammable. So it cannot catch fire. So you know when they have Andre the Giant in the cloak
Yeah.
and then they set him on fire
Yeah.
and it doesn't get through.
Because that was
him.
my next question. How'd they do?
That's it. It's
Yeah.
that's a Holocaust cloak. But it's such a weird name. No idea why it's called
Yeah,
that.
that threw me for
Well,
six.
it must predate the Holocaust that we know.
Yes, but in the 80s it didn't. So you
Yeah.
must have imagined people in the 80s were like, what did you just say?
Why would
Like-
you just say inflammable?
Yeah.
Or like a
Worse than
a
I thought he
magic-
said clock. I just,
yes, a Holocaust clock.
And then
Yeah.
no clock shows up. So why
Yes.
do they even mention it?
Yep.
Don't mention the war.
no context.
Very
Honestly.
strange. Carrie Ellis, when he's, like you mentioned already, when he's very raggedy in those scenes is great. But we should talk about what I think is, if I was going to sit down and make a list of my 100 favourite scenes in no order from all movies.
Tom, why do you do this?
Inigo Montoya killing Christopher Guest.
Yes.
Do you not think?
Great.
What are you worried about?
Why do you just prelude into this? Like, we should talk about.
We should talk
just
about
talk about it.
You do
Okay.
it as well, pal.
do I?
I was about to
Yes.
say.
Nah.
Absolutely.
Never.
More, probably
Listeners, you can write in. I think
Listeners, that's optimistic.
Yeah, that's
I appreciate
Bullshit.
you backing
Absolute
me up
bullshit.
there, Frank, because I was like,
No,
it
I'm
sounds
shitting on
familiar.
both of you.
Okay.
Get
You
your
both waste too
hand
much
off
time.
each other's legs.
Economy of language.
Killing Christopher Guest.
Great
Can
scene.
you tell me
Yes,
the
yes.
character's name? Sorry, I can't remember what Christopher Guest's character is, but he's the six-fingered man.
Mr. Finger Bang.
Okay.
Finger Bang. Bang.
Count Rugen.
Count
Rugen.
Count Rugen.
Rugen.
He's a despicable character.
Prince, sorry, and Prince Humperdinck is very funny.
Oh, and we've got to talk about Chris Sarandon. He's,
Yeah.
Speaking of classic films, he's the voice of Jack Skellington.
Which doesn't make any
Really?
sense to me.
You can't hear it
That's
when
so
he's
interesting.
doing it, but he is American. So many of them are. Like Carrie Ellis apparently is
That's so
English,
interesting.
which is truly kind of twists my mind because I thought he was American,
No.
and then almost everyone else in this is American. So it's
And
just
that's also a joke he makes in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
that he's American.
Yeah, because Kevin Costner can't do a British accent.
This is true.
And it's come out.
He
just
can do a
like that.
Kevin Costner accent.
Oh, he sure can.
nails it.
He can pretend to be Kevin Costner all day.
Yes.
Christopher Guest as Count
Christopher
Rugen.
Guest as Count Rugen, when he first turns and throws the knife at Inigo Montoya and he falls over and says, "I'm sorry, father." And he goes, "Are you that little brat? Have you been chasing me this whole time just to now fail? I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard." And you're like, "Oh, kill this man."
I hate him so much.
So infuriating.
Yeah.
And then Inigo Montoya manages to knock the sword either side of himself so he doesn't get stabbed. And then he starts saying over and over again, G'ing himself up like fucking Popeye mainlining spinach. "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father. Prepare to die." Stop saying that.
Yeah, Count Rugen's like, stop saying
It's
that.
so good. And then finally at the end where he says, "Offer me money. Yes. Offer me riches. Yes. Offer me everything I could want in my wildest dreams. Anything you want. I want my father back, you son of a bitch." It's like, it's the greatest moment.
And I
love
thought he
that
was.
moment.
I thought he was going to die. I thought it was going to be really sad. I was
Yeah.
like, he's not going to do it. And then he starts razzing himself
I'm not
up.
trying
and
to
you're like,
poo-poo
come
on anyone else here, but I really I could watch a whole film on him.
Yes.
I
No,
could have a whole
I do agree.
swash. I can't speak.
Swash-
It's been like all day. It's been like this all day.
Have you been bustling your swamps?
Yeah, bustling my swashes.
You're such a bachelor boy.
A swashbuckling
Ah.
adventure.
Well, you should.
No, but for real, following him would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
like,
he's
it's
good.
such an amazing
Inigo
film.
is an incredible character. He's one of the only two characters in this film that has his own Wikipedia page because people are obsessed with him. I think they even have his costume on display
Really?
somewhere in
That's great.
like a Hollywood museum.
Yeah,
right?
most of them are.
He's just great. I love Inigo Montoya. I love Mandy Patinkin. What do you think of his stage work? You probably know Mandy from that more.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful
Mandy
Singer.
Moore.
Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh,
Mandy Moore.
He knows Mandy.
I'm
from
Missing
that
You
one.
Like
Mandy
Candy.
Moore?
For
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely. 100%.
I'm Missing You Like
Mandy
Mandy.
Patinkin. Come on. Yeah, he's a great Broadway singer.
Is he actually?
Yeah, for real.
I'm
Oh.
Patinkin.
And Jake Gyllenhaal, so Mandy's like famous for Sunday in the Park with George
Gyllenhaal
playing
Oates.
George.
Say again.
Gyllenhaal and Oates. Yeah, go on.
Good, great.
Last one.
This is impossible.
Fucking hell, we're all getting to the end of our
Railroad. Go on. Promise I won't interrupt. Gyllenhaal and him did Sunday.
And then Jake Gyllenhaal did Sunday in the Park with George and got Mandy Patinkin's blessing, and that was like a massive thing. I was like, oh my God, Mandy likes him as George, so therefore he
Wow.
must be. I'm just going to check that because if I'm wrong, I'll feel like an absolute
that-
fool. Oh, also, can we talk about, sorry.
Go on.
No, don't worry about it. I want to talk about Deadpool again. I just
No,
keep
you
thinking
can't.
about, but he loves Broadway. And he talks about Broadway a lot. Now that's a fun little through line through all the films. So that's a great movie.
Let me just check. Hey, let me just check this.
Do you have much association with Andre the Giant, Marcus? Like before this movie? Because you were into wrestling when we were younger, but he's before your time.
Not enough.
Yeah, we haven't really talked much about Andre the Giant. He's like a very lovable figure. In this.
Although we did talk about the
Yeah, okay, I was right.
Don't
Giant
worry.
I was right.
Claw,
I was right.
Giant Claw wrestling film.
We did
recently,
talk about
and
the Iron
Andre
Claw.
the Giant was a reference in that.
Yes, that's true. What's the name of that family again? The Von something?
Von Traps.
Quit your wrestling. The Nazis are coming.
Von Eriks?
It is the Von Erichs. I think.
So
you're
is
right.
anyone going to throw anything in?
I think this movie's exceptional. It's really, really hard for me to.
Before you go queuing me out, you Hollywood motherfucker.
Just give
Just-
Marcus a moment, Frank. All right,
Frank,
You
I-
think about it. You think, has anyone convinced you that you
I
that you
think
were
that
wrong? That your
I
opinion was.
see. No, for once I'm going to see it because.
Oh, for once you're going to sit.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm easily swayed. This time, not so much. I don't feel compelled to rewatch it ever. Probably. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I can tick it off, but it's not going to be a revisit. And I find that
So
it
on
just
average, 0 times a year.
didn't.
I get it. Okay. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know.
It didn't hit the right notes for me,
Yeah.
and I had, I guess, high expectations for the period at the
Mhm.
time, and I guess I should have stopped comparing it to other films of the same sort of genre.
Although it's hard not to.
Mm.
I'm going to throw it into a 7.5.
Throw in the pound.
You really
Just a little bit.
like it a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more. Talking about the ending is like, yeah, it does. It just, it's good. Mandy Patinkin's good.
Well, we
man.
get
It's
that
good.
that one
Good
section
reward.
very quickly that we didn't talk about, which is Carrier was in bed giving the whole speech about what he's going to do to Prince Humperdinck. Like,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
gonna
and, like,
cut off his
scares
ears
him.
and all this sort of. No, your ears I leave so that you can hear the scream of everyone who encounters you, and then stands up and points the sword at the camera. Drop your sword. It's so. And Prince Humperdinck just like take a seat, and he's like, right, and goes and sits over and grabs his.
It does
fist around
anything
him.
you want. It's like, okay, yep.
Very good. So it's a good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy we watched it. Thanks for the suggestion.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, and send us an email on Instagram. ohheypals@gmail.com and
How many
And-
O's is that in the email?
OHHEY
PO Box 136.
I'm trying to spell the
Queensland,
email.
Australia.
It's got a double H because oh hey pals.
Throw in the pound.
You do the outro.
Yeah, go.
Oh, that was we just did a show together. We just spoke about a show. The three of us talking about movies.
That was Throw in the Power. Thanks for listening. That's Marcus.
I panicked.
That was Frank.
And that's Thomas. ohheypals@gmail.com or Throw in the Pal at Instagram. Let us know what you hate about us.
Throw in the pound.
What you hate about it.
There you go, dude. Love about us.
Love it or hate it, we debate it.